Personal story or journey or pictures that I've taken recently on some assignments. Some of them would be some first responders working in Seattle. Another is an assignment I was recently sent to Brazil to cover children who are no much older than you, who are sex trafficked, and the people that are helping them. And then just some other images that sort of celebrate the light in our world and also some of the heartache as well. And so you're going to see some of these images, and I'm going to kind of go through some of them, and other times I'm just going to talk and let you just sort of view them as you wish. In light of the chapel theme of service, peace, and justice, there are three things that I want to talk about. The unexpected life, the value of our time, and then ultimately how our passions and our deep gladness can intersect with our hurting world, and how maybe all of that can relate to the theme and to some of the work that I've shown you already and the work that I will show you now. Let me start at the beginning. Last time I was here, I talked a little bit about my personal life, so I'm not going to go into it in too much detail, but I'm going to give you basically a quick survey in case some of you haven't heard it. You see, my life, like nearly everyone else's life, so far has been a pretty unexpected journey. Let me be very brief. It started early when I was born in Korea. And at a young age, I, along with my two older sisters, we ran away from an abusive home. And we ended up on the streets by the kindness of restaurant owners who fed us until we were put into an orphanage. It's not what I expected, even at that young age. Now, you would think being put into an orphanage designed to help children in need would be a good place for someone to land in my situation. And in some ways it was, but in many other ways it was also kind of a nightmare, because many of the adults running the place were pretty abusive, even more so than my home, and they inflicted inhumane punishment on little children, including myself. It's not what I expected. And then at the age of 8.5, with sisters aged 10 and 12, all three of us were adopted. Okay, this is what it looked like when I came over, and that's my older sisters. By a single American family. See, this is me getting my citizenship. I love that powder blue suit. And it's horrible. But not as bad as my sister's hairs. I don't know what's going on there, but that's, wow. And then there's me with all, yeah, that's what I look like when I wake up. My brother loved to take pictures of me, embarrassing. Nice. And of course, like any Americanized child, I wanted to be Superman, of course, when I learned what Superman was. Nice glasses, I like that. And this is one of my first American friends, Steve. Like Erica said, I'm sensitive. He had liked basketball, I liked Mickey Mouse. Now, to adopt children as old as us, let alone three of us at the same time, to be kept together is nearly unheard of, you guys. I don't know if you know that. Because people tend to adopt cute little Asian babies, and take a look. I was Asian, of course. I was not a baby, and certainly not cute. Well, I guess I was a little cute.
You were cute.
I don't know what happened, but that's fine, you get older. But still, it's not what I expected. So let's fast forward a few years. A month before my wedding, my girlfriend / fiancé, here she is, fiercely beautiful, my type of girl, valedictorian smart. She was diagnosed with stage 4 acute lymphoblastic leukemia, an extremely aggressive cancer that they caught very, very late. And the doctors gave her a 5% chance of survival without a transplant. It's not what I expected. So that I could visit her longer at the hospital when she started her chemotherapy and her radiation and eventually a transplant, I suggested to her one day, hey, look, we were just going to get married in about a month anyways, so why don't we just have my uncle, who's a pastor, marry us here at the hospital? So, with just a couple of people in the room, including her parents and mine, we were married in her room, and we said, I do. See, there's my uncle. We had to all wear masks and rubber gloves most of the time. And she wore this non-traditional Korean hanbok. You guys know what that is, right? Yeah, nice. And I wore a ridiculously bad brown suit. But I wore sneakers. She let me do that since I was in the hospital. And there she is, further along in the process. Even without her hair, she's just beautiful, isn't she? I remember looking into her eyes in that photo when I took that, and I thought, what powerful grace and strength and beauty she still had. And in case you were wondering, she's okay. We were married, and this is her today, just taken maybe about a couple of months ago. Our wedding and our life today is not what we had expected. See, I could go on and on and on, but I'll stop here. Because the truth is, you don't need some adult dude standing up here and telling you how unexpected or painful life can be, do you? You know that all too well, don't you, you guys? Life isn't a perfectly scripted and smooth thing. It's just downright messy, isn't it? Sometimes we adults make the mistake of saying that you kids, you just got it easy. All you need is go to school, And we get stressed from work and trying to make ends meet, and we minimize the real struggle of what it is to be a teenager in this day and age. But the truth is, you know how dark and stormy the world can be, don't you, students? You don't need to hear about the storms that rages inside of me because you are all too familiar with the Hurricane Sandys of your own lives. Maybe that storm is a label. And maybe that label is that you're not pretty enough or not handsome enough, and nobody even glances your way or does even a double take. Or maybe it's the opposite, that you're just too pretty or you're too handsome and everyone just hates you or resents you. Neither of them being really fair. Or maybe your label is you're just that depressed girl, and you wonder how life is just so easy for everyone else when every day it's just a struggle to breathe. Or maybe your label is you're just that suicidal guy, right? That guy that just puts on a smile for everyone while you secretly think that life is just a waste, and you're thinking, it's probably just not going to get any better than this that I have now. Or maybe your label is that you're introverted and shy, and this was my label growing up. When I take those Myers-Briggs personality tests, I always come up like 95% introverted. And I'm just fighting right now not to vomit up here as I'm talking. I'm trying to hide it. But, you know, those introverts, sometimes we think we can't add anything to a group, or we just don't easily fit into a lot of places, right? Even though the truth is, some of the most influential people in the world are actually introverts. Or maybe it's just the opposite, and your label is that you're just that crazy, outgoing, extroverted person, right? And people don't see that quieter, more thoughtful side that you know that you have inside of you. And people just think you're like a clown, and that's all they see. Or maybe your label is you're that kid from the divorced parents, from that fractured home, and so when your friends talk about how epic their Christmas and Thanksgivings were, you just remain silent because you spent a lot of it bouncing back and forth a couple houses in your car. Or maybe there are other storms in your life. Maybe you lost a brother to an accident. Or maybe you lost a sister to cancer at an early age. I know the school recently was rocked by the loss of one of your dear own. I didn't know her. I'm really sorry. I'm so deeply sorry. I'm sure she meant a lot to many of you. The point is, your lives are no walk in the park, is it? There's a quote that I like. I'm not going to give credit for the quote because a lot of people debate who said it first. Some people say it's Plato, someone says it's someone else. But I really like the quote. It says this: be kind, for everyone you meet is fighting a hard battle. Be kind, for everyone you meet is fighting a hard battle. So what are we to do in the face of such storms that rage inside of us? Well, we could be angry, and we could be sad, and we could even be bitter. And would any of these things be bad? Of course not. It's totally understandable. And we've all been to those dark places. God knows I have. I've experienced many of these things, many of these labels. But let me toss up another possibility or a path for you that we can take amid the storm that rages within us and around us. Service through discovery. Let me explain a little bit. A quote by the theologian and author by the name of Frederick Buechner once said this: "The place God calls you to is where your deep gladness and the world's hunger meet." Such a great quote. I'm going to say it again. The place God wants you is where your deep gladness and the world's hunger meet. What an awesome challenge when we have the unexpectedness of pain in our lives. See, now I don't really know why, but I often get asked by many people, so Andrew, how does one know God's will or plan for one's life? I used to be like, whoa, what the heck? How can I answer such a question? Who can say they need on the mind of God? I know I can't, and I don't think I ever will be able to. However, over the years, I've come to think about this question, and I will say this one thing that I've come to believe. I believe that beyond love, I don't feel God has like this particular map, right, for everyone to strictly follow as if it's somehow our job to find a particular path and never, ever, ever move off of it. Like it's written in stone or something. There's a lot of pressure. See, I think our God is much more creative and much more fun and adventurous than that, right? And isn't interested in punishing us for choosing this one path or rewarding us for choosing another path. See, in my view, I think this is kind of a pretty narrow view about the goodness and nature of God, if you think about it. See, I think God is a great deal more interested and takes huge amounts of pleasure in seeing us, seeing you guys, unearth your deep gladness and passion, and then watch you put that to the task of service, and to the task of peace, and to the task of justice, toward a better community.